ranges, but then there's another range of processes that occur, which are enzymatic transformations as a result of fungus and other microflora that begin to inhabit the wood during the seasoning process. We saw that this fungi in the seasoning yard developed both on the inside of the wood and on the surface, and there were actually different species we identified on the surface as opposed to what was in the wood. These are some of the species that we identified on the surface of the oak, and just for some fungi trivia here today. This one, this particular species is used in biotech for creation of a number of enzymes. And this one, Trichoderma harzanium, is used as a natural, what'd you say? It's used as a foliar treatment, as an antifungal treatment, actually, ironically. But, and these are some of the species on the other side that we identified in the depth of the wood, several millimeters into the wood. And as you imagine, again, this is a progressive process. At the beginning, there are a few species. As the time increases, there are more and more species inhabiting the wood. 3 to 4 millimeters into the wood the first 3 years, and then as time progresses, these species of fungi and other microflora get way into the wood and are doing a lot of work. But it's real difficult to determine which species is actually having the greatest relative effect. So for this study, we took 3 to 5 samples from the yard, and we sampled at 0 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and 36 months. And these were the these were the methods we used for the various analysis of the different compounds. This is not my forte. I'm not a chemist, but I know these are standard techniques for testing these various types of compounds. So this is the first result here. We saw overall, when we did an analysis on the total phenolic compounds over the course of time, starting at 0 months on the left, we saw an increase in total phenolic compounds in the seasoned wood. Now, this isn't to say that all the phenolic compounds are increasing. Some are increasing, some are decreasing, and some are remaining static. But in terms of the total phenolic compounds, they're increasing. And over on the right side there, that bar actually was a control with French oak, and you can see that French oak tends to have more phenolic compounds overall, and at 36 months, somewhat more than the American oak. Ellagic acid is probably the most important compound contributed to wine from oak, and it can influence the mouthfeel, it can contribute to color binding, can contribute to a longer, smoother finish, a whole range of beneficial effects. And we saw a progressive increase in the ellagic acid content as well. Aldehydes have a big part to play in aromatics of wine, certainly vanillin. This is a good demonstration of the non-linear effects of the air seasoning. You can see that during the seasoning, starting again at 0 months, 12 months, 18, 24, and 36, these things are going through a process. Sometimes they're increasing, sometimes they're decreasing, so it's a very complex interaction. But one significant outcome here is the fact that the vanillin, which is the purple, no, it's this one here, this dark purple, I guess, or black. We do see a significant increase in that during the aging period of 36 months. These other compounds, like syringaldehyd, work with the vanillin and sort of help boost the effect of the aromatics. These are two other compounds. Now, the significance of this slide here, when they're doing the analysis at 12 months, we saw the emergence of the syringic acid. We believe that this is a result of an oxidative process. So the syringaldehyd is being oxidized and creating syringic acid. And this was significant because we're looking at the effects. What's happening in the yard? We know there's a drying effect. We know there's an enzymatic process going on. But this would indicate that there's also an oxidative process going on, something like you'd see in the aging of wine, same sort of general process. And some of you may be acquainted with this compound. This is naturally occurring in wood. It's not a result of Brettanomyces, however. But the good news is we measured a decrease in 4-ethylphenol. These kind of amounts at micrograms per gram are no cause for concern in terms of your wine, but it was one of the compounds we were interested in investigating, and we did see an overall decrease in the content of the 4-ethylphenol during the aging time. These are some of the other phenols we investigated, and what we want to look at here is sort of the shift that's occurring during the aging time. These are 3 aging periods. This dark purple here is 0 months, 18 months in the yellow, and 36 months here, this kind of pink, whatever that is. I hope you can see that. These compounds on the right side, at the top is guaiacol, and 4-methylguaiacol and 4-ethylguaiacol. These tend to be kind of naturally kind of smoky, kind of a smoky sort of character, kind of heavy and smoky. As the aging progresses, you can see there's a shift away from these compounds, and then you can see the yellow here kind of shifting towards the middle. And then at 36 months, there's a shift towards these spicier compounds, eugenol, which is usually associated with clove, isoeugenol, another type, maybe cinnamon and clove type compounds. So there's this shift that occurs during the seasoning from a kind of smoky or maybe a bit of a raw type character over to a spicier type of profile. This is probably, I think, the most significant result of the seasoning. Whiskey lactone is sort of the characteristic, the signature of American oak. It can be somewhat overt, kind of coconut, or definitely a coconut type character. There are 2 forms of this lactone. There's cis whiskey lactone and trans whiskey lactone. Overall, American oak tends to be much richer in these lactones, especially the cis whiskey lactone. And so it tends to be overt, it tends to be very aromatic, and in my opinion, sometimes it can tend to overlay some of the other aromatics and flavor compounds in American oak. So you can see, again, we have a reduction here at 0 months through 36. And at the end, over here, this is French oak over on the right. It's almost equivalent. What we measured, the whiskey lactone in the 36-month American oak, was roughly equivalent to what we had in the French oak. I do a lot of tasting with winemakers on our barrels. We have a 36-month and a 48-month barrel now, and it's quite remarkable when this whiskey lactone compounds are reduced a bit. It's like pulling the curtain away from a lot of a lot of the other contributions American oak can make, especially in terms of spiciness, sort of fresh vanilla, and a whole range of subtle flavors and aromas that are perhaps obscured by the whiskey lactone. So that was a very, I was very thrilled to see this slide because it keyed in exactly to most of the tastings I was doing with the winemakers and comments they were making about the difference between our 24-month barrel, for instance, and our 36-month barrel. Another interesting compound, this I was unacquainted with it until I saw this work. This is a compound called beta Ionone, and it's generally associated with violets, the smell of violets, it's much more present in American oak than in French oak, and we see a somewhat progressive an increase here, but way over on the right there you can see the French oak staves we had in the trial, and it has considerably less beta Ionone in the wood. This compound, I came across it again at up in Washington at the Washington Association of Wine Grape Growers. They had a room where they were presenting papers from the Washington State University, and there were some graduate students who had were doing some work on the effects of sunlight exposure on red grape varietals, and one of the compounds they were measuring was this same one, beta Ionone. So it's also present in some of the red grape varietals, probably, perhaps in Petite Sirah in some a good relative amount. I know it's present in Pinot Noir and a number of the other red varietals. Can we go back to that one more time? When I saw that work at Washington State, it occurred to me that this increase in the beta Ionone possibly could be a result of, since it's also seems to increase with sunlight on the bunches on the grapes in the vineyard, it could be a result of sunlight or something of that sort. So it's interesting when when a compound like this coincides with some grape compounds in an interesting way. This slide is just again showing this shift. We included a few more compounds here, and showing the shift during the seasoning period. This is a furfural compound, kind of 12 o'clock position there. That's usually associated with kind of caramel, a little bit of a cooked, caramelized type of sweetness. There's the whiskey lactone there, beta Ionone, and then these two, 4-ethyl guaiacol and 4-ethyl phenol down here. I hope you can see these colors. At 0 months, this is 0 months, this kind of dark purple here. And it's definitely weighted down there again towards those smoky kind of compounds, and this 4-ethyl phenol, which kind of smoky medicinal type of quality. Very low on the beta Ionone, high on the whiskey lactone. And again, the same process is occurring. At 18 months, you see this dispersion. There's a relative change in the relative amounts of these compounds. And then at 36 months, you get this rather dramatic change here to the sweet vanillin, eugenol, and this nice floral compound, this beta Ionone. So it's going through a very dramatic change. We assembled a professional tasting panel in France to actually taste some samples. So they took some of the seasoned wood and they chipped it up and soaked it in wine, and they tasted it. This is one of those cases where the vocabulary is a little unfamiliar. This fungi here that they used as a descriptor, that's really a reference to raw wood, kind of a raw, kind of earthy type of character. So at 0 months, they got much more of this influence of this fresh wood, fresh cut wood, maybe even a kind of earthy, mushroomy type of character from the oak. And then as we progress forward, you get move into the sweet area. They described it as sweet and spicy. And I think you saw that in terms of the relative amounts of the compounds as they change during the aging period, the seasoning period. So in conclusion, we see that this process is a complex process, the seasoning. It's a matter not only of the weather conditions, but there are oxidative processes going on. There are very interesting microbial things going on. We looked at the fungi, but certainly bacteria play a part in these transformations as well. And we'd see a big change in the phenolic compounds, the aromatics change, and these changes were perceptible and very consistent with our results. When the tasting panel tasted, they were consistent with the other results we saw from the actual chemical analysis. So we think that the seasoning of the American oak decreases what we might call this typical American oak character, which more or less is associated with more of the coconut kind of heavy type of quality. And it results in a greater complexity of flavors and aromas when the whiskey lactone is reduced. As I mentioned, these other things are revealed in very interesting ways. And we get a whole range of new flavors and aromas. I want to mention that all the seasoning work we do, we also certify that the seasoning we do is what we say it is. So we work with an international certification agency named Bureau Veritas, and they have worked with Terrence Oak Cooperage for a number of years. So this is one of the things we imported to our cooperage in Kentucky, and so we have an audit done every year and make sure that our seasoning times are accurate, and so our 24-month is a minimum of 24 months, our 36-month oak is a minimum of 36, and our 48, which we also do, is a minimum of 48. And by way of commercial, here are the different barrel types we have. So this seasoning work that was done in France, in some ways resulted in this product, which we introduced, maybe 4 years ago in a very small amount. The vintage barrel is a 24-month barrel, kind of more of a typical American oak barrel with that nice, sweet character. I really like it with Zinfandel. I like it with Petite, Sirah, and Syrah too. Then we do 2 versions of the Grand Cru, the 36-month, which is a minimum of 36, and now we're doing this 48-month barrel, which is proving to be quite revolutionary in American oak. We're the only American oak cooperage that's offering 48-month seasoned oak, American oak. And I have to tell you, initially I was concerned. I thought maybe this wood will be depleted, but it certainly isn't. And I hope the results you saw will show that the seasoning process, things are being lost, things are being gained. Nothing is lost without something else being gained during the seasoning process. We don't understand it all yet, but we're going to keep working on it and try to produce the finest American oak barrel that can be made. So thanks for your attention. I would be interested in answering, I don't know if questions are good now, if we have time, or later? Okay. Please, if you have questions later, it doesn't have to be about this specific information. If you want to quiz me on what we're doing with American oak, in any other area of American oak cooperage, I'd be very happy to answer your questions, or try to anyway. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Brian. Well, continuing our enology session of the symposium, our next presenter has been in the California wine industry ever since, dropping out of MIT in 1971. After a decade cooking in various restaurants and 6 years in the retail wine shop business, he graduated UC Davis in 1983 and founded R.H. Phillips Vineyard. There served as winemaker for its first 7 years in his role as senior enologist for his family's wine production consulting firm, Vinovation. He patented alcohol adjustment and other enological applications of a reverse osmosis, which he developed into an international enological network in 1997. Clark became a discipline of the, we've got some big words here. I think I'm going to skip over these, Clark, here. In my own humility, I'll let you bring those. Clark has developed a postmodern school of winemaking that he calls practicing grapecraft. It can be seen at grapecraft.com. He also edits the controversial web magazine winecrimes.com, which provides an open forum for writers to air their views regarding new winemaking techniques. Please welcome Clark Smith.
So can you hear me down at that end, Ellen?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to try to make up some time here, give a very simple presentation, possibly somewhat annoying at the end. I wanted to pour some wine. Patrick Duperneau taught me again and again that it's impolite to speak of wine in its absence. It's gossip, you know. So I poured just some wine, and I'm going to try to tie together what Mark said